Just when you thought the 49ers were out of the quarterback market, Brock Purdy pulls them back in. What's up? Good morning on the West Coast. Good afternoon on the East Coast. This is the Coach's Meeting. That's the Coach from the Coach's Huddle. I'm Grant Cohn from Levi Stadium. I have a Christmas tree behind me because it's Christmas time. How you doing, Coach?
It's Christmas time. What's good?
Pretty good. Having a good time. Enjoying the 49ers 0.2% chance of making the playoffs. You can't count it out. You can't count it out. We're going to get, it's a big quarterback episode today. But before we get into quarterback drama, let's talk Ambry Thomas. Third round pick, was on IR all season. They waived him yesterday. He's well, we'll see if he clears waivers, but his time as a 49er is over. How do you feel about the end of the Ambry Thomas era?
I don't know, man. It definitely had its ups and downs. I mean, in the beginning, when Ambry Thomas first got here, he was kind of thrusted onto the scene on a very good defense. In many ways being asked to do more than what he should have been doing early in his career. And he struggled. But it seemed as though that he was kind of gaining his stripes, kind of earning his stripes with trial by fire. One of the biggest things about Ambry Thomas is that it's not for nothing. He was never a bad corner, but he just had certain things about his game that we wanted to see more of. You know, always in phase, not being able to high point the ball, never turning his head around at the last moments. But definitely somebody who we also have equity in. The last thing, I don't want to step on this because I know this is a big point that you had actually pointed out to me.
Go for it.
But you know, is this another Sammy Womack situation where we're letting go of a corner who we have equity in, where we don't necessarily see a path for them, and we just pull the trigger where we don't really need to? We can still let him stay. And then he goes somewhere else and finds worth and actually gets a role, and we're sitting here with egg on our face. So I hope that's not the situation. I really do. But, you know, Ambry was a good player for what he's worth, but it's sad to see him go.
Yeah, he's 25 years old. He played a little too soon, and it's like the Niners don't have a good track record of – they don't have a great track record with the corners. I mean, in the sense that they've waived good ones. They waived Samuel Womack. He's a good number 3 corner for the Colts right now. They waived DJ Reed once upon a time. He's been one of the better starting corners in the league the last 3-4 years for the Jets. You have Rock Ya-Sin on your team. He'll be gone, but like, are you sure that Darrell Luter Jr. What has Darrell Luter Jr. done since he's entered the league that makes you feel he's better than Ambry Thomas, who admittedly is awful in practice? You've seen it. I've seen it. He makes no plays and gives up all the catches. But in games, he has made some plays. I mean, when he was a rookie, week 18, he made that interception in overtime on Matthew Stafford. He high-pointed it. It was down the field. It was a great play. It put him into the playoffs. If I were another team, I'd at least bring him into camp.
I mean, you're digging in the crates right now. You going back into his career.
That was his one play.
Yeah, that's what I said. You dug in the crates for that one.
Didn't he intercept Geno last year in Seattle on a pass that was intended for
DK Metcalf?
I think it was DK.
Yeah. I mean, look, he's had bright spots. He's a good player, but also, you know, NFL stands for not for long, Grant. And one thing that we do know is that there are some young corners that are stepping up in our roster. So it's not necessarily Isaac Yiadom. We get that. It's not a Rock Ya-Sin situation, but I look at it as a Renardo Green, right? And Lenoir, right? And Diamador Lenoir, right? And moving forward, we're probably going to find, if you know, and they've got to be feeling themselves. I mean, Renardo Green was a find if you think about it, right? Yeah. Pick a nice guy that you get out from Florida State. Strong nickel guys, played outside, definitely shown a lot of confidence, big hitter, physical, you know, and that kind of makes you look at Ambry and say, well, look, you've been here. What is this, his 4th year in the league? You know, it's like, dude, you've been here 4 years. You know, your ceiling is pretty much what it is, right? And right now, for you coming off of an injury, we got to make some serious decisions to move on. So, and for what it's worth, you could look at that, you know, one of our best units thus far in a pretty much dumpster fire of a season has been our secondary. Our secondary has actually been one of our better units this year.
No doubt. All I want to say is next year, if Yadam's gone and Yasin is gone, and the Niners' top two cornerbacks are Lenore and Green, and Travarius Ward is gone, understandable. If the number 3 cornerback is Darrell Luter Jr., I want to see that he's better than Ambry Thomas if he pops up somewhere. Or Samuel Womack, who's a number 3 corner on a solid defense or on a solid team. Like, I think that's got to be, like, if you're getting rid of Ambry, you're telling us that you think Darrell Luter Jr. could absolutely step into that number 3 cornerback role, because I'm not sure who that's going to be next year. Could be Yada.
Yeah. Okay, but also with Renardo Green coming in and showing what you can get out of a first-year guy, who's to say they aren't looking towards free agency or the draft? Certainly. Right? Where it's like, hey, we can get a second-day guy, a third-day guy that can come in and absolutely replicate what we saw out of Renardo.
Last example of the Niners not giving up on a cornerback, but Akella was locking down Debo the other day.
Oh, yeah. I saw that too. I saw that. He was hyped too.
Anyway.
Clapping in his face.
I'd be hyped as well. All right, that's enough non-quarterback talk. It was 6 minutes of not talking about quarterbacks. I think we got to give ourselves a round of applause. We did it. 6 minutes. All right, quarterback time. Before we get into other quarterbacks the Niners could possibly acquire, they're in it. Let's talk about the position they're in. They got Brock on his contract for one more year. He's not he's not an unrestricted free agent in any way. He wants a lot of money. Do they have to give it to him? He'll be eligible for an extension in like 2.5 weeks, and he wants $60 million a year. I'm hearing a lot of people be like, hey, man, it's the NFL. It is what it is. You got to give it to him. Do they have to give it to him?
Hell no. They don't have to give it to him. They do not have to give Brock that money. They could wait to the bitter end, make him play out his last year, and let him bet on himself. There's quarterbacks that we've talked about where teams have done this before, where they haven't been hasty to jump on things with their contracts. The Washington Redskins let Kirk Cousins walk, let him bet on himself and didn't pay him. Lamar Jackson, down to the bitter end. They didn't want to pay Lamar, letting him know, hey, look, I understand that you believe what you're worth, but we'll let you go and just bet on yourself. I think that Brock Purdy is along those lines. He's going to be able to walk out and try to prove himself to get his deal. But hey, listen, the reason why this is a conversation is because what he's done thus far. All right. So for us to say, hey, Brock deserves a big deal. He came in, lights out right away, did well with our starters. But if all of that plays, then you can't ignore this season and the last set of 10 games that we've seen. The last set of 12 games that we've seen. It's been bad. Right. And because of that, I think it would be just hasty to even try to push that. Who that over here trying to get in the show? Who that?
That was Deshaun Gibson.
What's up, Gib?
What's up, Gib? How you doing?
Hey, Gib.
Yeah, okay. So about the Niners. Like, I think Lamar's a perfect example. Like, he was eligible for an extension. The Ravens made him an offer, but it wasn't that great because he was coming off a down season. He had like 16 touchdowns and 13 picks. And he went to the negotiating table and said, I want to be one of the highest paid players in the league. And you just don't get that type of a contract when you're coming off your worst season. So they made him an offer, not to be disrespectful, but I don't know what it was. He obviously didn't accept it and said, I'll just come back and prove it. And the Ravens said, great. So if Lamar Jackson, who had already had an MVP to his name at that point, was not above that, how could Brock Purdy be above that? If the Niners say, here, man, okay, we'll give you a 4-year deal worth $160, and we have an out after year 1. So it's essentially a 1-year deal with a team option to make it a 4-year deal if we want. If you're really good, you can sign that, or you could come back, bet on yourself, have a great year, and get the $60 million or more next year.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with what's happening right now. The fans, we should be happy that this is happening right now. It shows that the Niners are not too hard up on Brock. They're going to definitely, pace themselves out to make sure that this is the exact guy that they need and want. And then, we also have this year coming up where, this is another situation we're going to get into later in the show where there's tons of options, right?
Tons.
You can make him compete for this job. You can make him show that he needs to be the quarterback of this team through the offseason, let alone the upcoming season. So right now, picking Brock up for a deal right now in the middle of the season or after this season, it would mean two things. Either you are completely sold out, and if you are, then why not wait a year so he can really show you something better on film, or you're completely out on him and you feel like now is the time to lowball him. And then if you feel like now is the time to lowball him, then you shouldn't be paying for him to begin with because he's not a franchise quarterback.
Right.
So,
and I'm sure they will try to lowball him. I'm sure they say, Brock, man, we love you. Of course, you had a bad season, and this offer is going to reflect that. But 4 years, absolutely, sign us up. Now, there's only guaranteed money for 1 year, but you're going to be fine. Like, and that's where Brock's going to have to decide if he wants to bet on himself, if he has as much inner confidence as Lamar had. Like, okay, you're trying to play me, but I really am that dude. So I'll come back and I'll have another good year. No problem. McCaffrey will be back. Ayuk will be back. And then you'll have to pay me even more next year. So cool, I like this. Or he'll say, you know what? I'll take the money. Because I don't know what's going to happen next year. I don't know what's going to happen next year. I could have another bad year next year.
All right, so let me ask you this. We talk about guys like, give him the Baker deal. But all right, let's be honest, though. Is Tampa sold on Baker, or are they just happy with him?
Well, we'll see what happens in the playoffs, but he's having a hell of a year. He's having a career year. I'm sure they're pretty happy with. I mean, he's outperforming their contract, so they must be pretty happy with themselves that they got him at a deal.
Right, but at the same time, do you want a deal or do you want a franchise quarterback? Right,
a franchise quarterback, but he does still have some potential and some ceilings. A number one pick. He's having the best season of his career. We don't know that Baker isn't a franchise quarterback. He might be.
Right,
might be.
Yeah, and we got to see exactly how that plays out. My thing is that, all right, so would it be safe to say that Baker earned the deal that he had because he needed to prove that, hey, you already came in and got the benefit of the doubt. Now you need to prove that you're a franchise guy. Would this be the franchise guy deal that we give Brock? We don't. I don't see how you can offer him that.
I don't see how you can offer him that coming off of this season. I mean, I don't give a damn what he does the next 3 games. He's 6-7, and in the most important game of the season, he played his worst. So I know before the year they wanted to give him, they wanted to make him one of the highest paid players in the league. They thought he'd continue his upward trajectory, but he's declining. So maybe he'll bounce back next year, but you don't know that he will. So if he wants an extension now, then okay, it's going to reflect 2024. And if you want the Dak Prescott extension, then come back and prove it.
And prove it. Yeah,
you've had one good year, start to finish.
And I don't think there's a problem with that at all. He hasn't done enough to get that type of money. If we look at what Brock has done, and it's don't look at this from a team perspective. Look at it from an organization perspective. Like, he came here, helped us out, actually righted the ship in our most needy time. Okay, we got all that. However, the reason why he was able to have all of that infrastructure around him is because we didn't overpay at his specific position. So now that we've moved forward and understood that, hey, I think that this season honestly is a blessing in disguise. What if nobody got hurt this year? Everybody came back. It'd be full steam ahead. $60 million, Brock. There's nothing to talk about. If Brock would have replicated last year's season with this year's season, there's no way that you could tell me that the majority of what you're seeing from Brock from a performance basis is him. This is who he is. This isn't, and we had to, in a way, get everybody kind of off the team in order to just see how he can elevate the team. I asked this question yesterday, Grant. When's the last time you seen a game that we have won because of Brock Purdy?
I couldn't name one. I couldn't name one. Not a game that mattered. Absolutely not. And here's the thing: like when people say you got to extend him, Richard Sherman says it. This is the business. You got to do it. Tell that to the Giants. They extended Daniel Jones. They gave him $160 million. A year and a half later, he's on the Vikings practice squad. Tell it to the Broncos, who gave freaking Russell Wilson $250 million, and then a couple years later cut him and took like an $80 million dead cap hit. Tell it to the freaking Falcons, who gave Kirk Cousins $160 million with like half of it guaranteed, and then benched him like 6 months later. And they're going to have to cut him this offseason. So there's a lot of examples of just like of why teams shouldn't just fork over a ton of freaking cash to a quarterback just because he's eligible for an extension. There's a lot of examples. And if Brock keeps playing like he's been playing this year, gets the bag, keeps playing like this, I mean, they'll be cutting him in a year or two.
Yeah.
Straight up.
No, agreed. I didn't want to step out. Nah, that was a mic drop moment. I didn't want to add anything else.
Zach Barrow says 50 mil is a lot, but it's not about if he's worth it, but rather the quarterbacks in the league paying 50 million for it. Tua, Lawrence, Dak, got to get the 50. I'd hate to draft a quarterback and do another mini rebuild, to be honest. All right, I understand. That is the main fear of messing with Brock and not keeping him happy, is that now you got to find another quarterback, and that's what this show essentially is about. We're going to go through the different options. Rodney Heron, go ahead.
Well, I'll put it like this, man. I'll put it like this. If it's not the fact that we're paying Brock, and this leans towards the pay Brock crowd, honestly. We can't develop quarterbacks. This truly is luck, right? Like, where are we going to find another developmental guy, another guy that this regime, this coaching staff can find and develop, right? Trey Lance, done. Jimmy Garoppolo, never happened, right? CJ Beathard, Nick Mullins, whatever. Brock Purdy, for what it's worth, Brock Purdy is the best thing at quarterback as far as consistency. Who's better than in the 8 years? In the 8 years,
what he's done this year has been Jimmy-esque, Mullins-esque. I mean, again, what he did in 2022 and 2023 was amazing. Like some of the best, amazing, and statistically, but not anymore. Not for a while.
All right, but where is their ceiling though? Jimmy's never been as good as Brock has ever been. Neither is Nick Mullins. We're going to talk about the different
options like for the next 45 minutes. It's all good. Rodney Heron says $60 million per year for Brock. Does that include trademark of Mr. Irrelevant, the movie rights, and a Toyota Tundra? He's already making a bunch in terms of he's killing it. Lorenzo Gonzalez says market will be reset, period. Just pay and move on. 9P says, will Steve Young give Kirk number 8? Kirk will win with us. He was 18 this year. Shreddy Murphy says, who is better with no CMC, Ayuk, and Debo? Cousins or Purdy? Also, if we pay Brock, we could afford. Could we afford Cousins? Feels like the likely scenario. Well, we'll talk about that next. We're going to talk about Kirk right now. Ricky Williams says, we pay Purdy. We're the Cowboys with Romo. I'm not even sure he's as good as Romo. Okay, let's talk about Cousins. He just got benched. I'm sure the Falcons would love to trade him this offseason, but honestly, who would trade for that contract? It's a lot of money for a guy who looks kind of washed and currently leads the league in interceptions. So let's say the Falcons do what the Broncos did with Russell Wilson. They cut Russell Wilson this past offseason. It was a June 1 release, and they're paying for him now and next year. So Russell Wilson's a free agent. He goes to Pittsburgh, signs a veteran minimum contract for 1 year. The Broncos are paying Russell Wilson to play for the Steelers. That's the situation over in Pittsburgh, and it's working out pretty well. Same thing could happen with Kirk Cousins. They want to move on. They could cut him with a post-June 1 designation, and the Niners could sign him for like $1 million. Bring him on as a backup or someone who's competing with Brock Purdy, who also is playing for about $1 million. They could have Brock and Kirk on the same team, making less than $3 million combined. Is that chaos, or is that brilliant, or somewhere in between?
I think that's chaos. Number one, Kirk Cousins has kind of been a name, not even like a real person. He's more or less been an energy around this regime more than he's actually been a real tangible person. To actually get him in the building, I don't think that they could handle it. Number one, I don't think that the quarterback competition would be fair. It wouldn't be fair to Brock. I know Kirk Cousins would beat out Brock because there's no way that Kyle would. Kyle was fanboying over Sam Darnold. There's no way that Kirk Cousins, a man that has been rumored to talk to Kyle on a regular basis, since the Washington days would not find his way on the field. I like Kirk Cousins, what he was as a quarterback, but you and I have you caught some Kirk Cousins games this year?
Hasn't been good.
He's old. His age has finally caught up with Kirk Cousins. And I'll tell you right now, with our offensive line, one of the biggest things that's keeping Brock upright is his athleticism. That's something that's very underrated about his game. Something that Kirk Cousins just doesn't have anymore. I don't think he would come here and be protected. I think that it would be bad fast. All right. On top of the fact that Kirk is kind of built into his old ways. He knows what he knows. That's why he's leading the league in picks. He's been found out. And he can't help but throw those balls. And in a way, part of Kirk's, how can I say, struggles as a quarterback, he's always been a turnover machine in big moments. Always in big moments. So I don't like where he is right now as an athlete. I think he's older.
Like when Brock threw that pick in the red zone a few days ago. That was a big moment. Big turnover.
Disgusting. Right?
Bad. I saw
it was really
face.
bad.
You were disgusted. Oh my God.
It was in the four people, bro. I could not believe it.
They took 3 points off the board.
I could not believe it. So
here's the thing with Kirk, though. You're not bringing him in to be the starter. You're not getting rid of Brock. Brock's a starting quarterback. It's Brock's team. You're just bringing in Kirk to be the backup. And if Brock wants to get, if he wants to get crazy and hold out, then you got Kirk Cousins chilling. But he's not here to take Brock's job. No.
That gun's only got one bullet, though. That gun's only got one bullet, Grant. You can't bench Brock and then all of a sudden try to pay him as your starter years later, like a year later. Like once,
but if Brock gets benched next year, then he's not going to be the starter next. I mean, you're giving him another chance to prove.
Then we're stuck with Kirk.
No, then you got Brock on a 1-year deal. You got Kirk on a 1-year deal, and you could see what Kirk gives you at 37 years old. If he ain't the answer either, and you got to start over at quarterback next year anyway. At least you're not locked in long term to either one. You got 2 guys on a 1-year deal. That's exactly what Pittsburgh did this year with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. The exact same situation.
Which leads me to my next point on why I don't think it would happen is because it does force the clock on moving on from Brock, right? Because if you do bring in somebody to compete with Brock and Brock at any point loses or gets benched, then he's not our franchise quarterback and we're ultimately moving on, period, within 1 year.
That's good to know.
I don't think the Niners want to start that.
Maybe the competition is what he needs. Maybe Sam Darnold behind him brought out the best in him. Maybe you bring in Kirk Cousins, Brock gets pissed and has another MVP caliber season. He gets $280 million over 4 or 5 years, and everyone's happy. And Kirk Cousins retires, and he did his job.
Did the Niners have the balls to do that? You think the Niners are that secure in themselves to say, all right, Brock, you know what? We're not ready, and just to scrutinize to make sure that we know what we got in the quarterback, we're going to do one last quarterback competition and bring in a guy. You think the Niners would do that?
Yeah, here's how it plays out. The Niners go to Brock in March or whatever, and they give him an offer. Here's our offer. It's 4 years, $160 million with like 1 year guaranteed. And Brock's like, are you kidding me? This is disrespectful. I'm not signing this. And the Niners like, okay, well, if you don't want to commit to us long term, then that's great. You can come back and prove it this year on your final year. But we're going to have to bring in another quarterback just in case because you don't want the long-term deal. Now, you might want it next year, but we're going to have to hedge a little bit because you made this decision. We gave you a deal that we think is more than fair, and you didn't want it. And if you wanted more money, you could have played better this year. You could have beat the Rams once, but you didn't. So you come back, bet on yourself. You're on a 1-year deal, but we got to bring in someone else on a 1-year deal too. He's not going to make more than you. You're the starter. You're the starter. He's making $1 million too, but if you hold out, you get hurt. We got Kirk Cousins right here. And if he's hot, we might have to go with the hot hand because you haven't been hot since before the Ravens tore you apart on Christmas Eve in front of the whole world. Brock, sorry.
That sounds nice. I don't think the Niners had it. I think that they're really attached to Brock for being the face of this organization. And they're in a way, have you ever felt like they're waiting for the excuse to pay him? Like, please.
I thought they were last
enough
year
for us to pay you.
Yeah, but he didn't do good enough. That's the problem. They were crossing their fingers, hoping for it.
All right,
and
but
then he put up a 45 quarterback rating against the Rams in the one game this year that really, really mattered.
All right, and that makes sense. But there's a delta between them really wanting to pay him and him shit in the bed, and versus our conversation, which is, all right, we really, really wanted to pay you. You shit the bed. Now we completely want to take it all the way back to a quarterback competition, play on 1-year deals. And if you don't get it done within this 1 year, then we're moving on. Don't you think that's a completely different side of the spectrum?
You can present it differently. Hey man, we offered you an extension. You didn't want it. Okay. So we want to improve the quarterback room that has nothing to do with you. Our backups this year weren't good enough. Brandon Allen's gone. Josh Dobbs gone. We could go get someone who's 27 and really make you insecure, but we're going to get Kirk. Okay. Kirk's here to be a backup. He's not taking your job. He's got a relationship with Kyle Shanahan. He knows the system. There's no learning curve. This is just a precaution to improve the quarterback room and to bring the best out of you, Brock. We love you. We believe in you. I mean, they can say all that kind of stuff, but Kirk's here.
And what you're saying makes tons of sense.
Brock can start the season the way Justin Fields started the season in Pittsburgh. But if they're 3-5, halfway through the year, they can make a change if they need to.
The way I see it,
not saying Kirk's a savior. Sorry, go ahead.
And I agree. The way I see it is that the Niner way is that they go all the way down to the bitter end to the last year that Brock needs to get negotiated with. They lowball him. They go fight back and forth, and then they pretty much let Brock walk. They probably franchise him, and then they go ultimately and draft a quarterback.
Maybe. Or maybe they sign a quarterback next year, but
they're never preemptive about this stuff. They never do steps ahead. What you're saying makes them conscientious. It makes them self-aware. You know what I'm saying? Like, your side of this is like they're ripping the Band-Aid off. They're being shrewd. None of these characteristics have been shown from the organization.
True. You and I both know that they're going to cave and give Brock every penny he wants. But we both agree that the best move is to let him play out his contract and come back and not give him the extension. And to me, if that's what they do, then I think they should bring in another quarterback just in case. And the reason Kirk's interesting is that he'd be hella cheap and the Falcons would pay for him to be on this team. That being said, he might be completely washed. That's possible.
He might be washed.
He might be completely washed, and you might just be bringing in someone who shouldn't be playing anymore. So let's talk about someone else. Sam Darnold is having an incredible year. He's kind of having the year that Brock had last year. Since he had such a miserable start to his career, he can't ask for $60 million a year. Despite the fact that he's coming off a career year just in time to hit free agency, most he can probably ask for is 40. And he may not even get that. So do you think the 49ers should go for like the Costco option here, wholesale, and go get 27-year-old Sam Darnold for that Baker Mayfield deal and just say, peace, Brock? What do you think?
No. Not 1 year with an offense that Sam Darnold has seen for 2 years, coming on a team that is very talented. And they have, styles make fights with the type of players, man. We ain't got no damn Justin Jefferson on our team. Nope. We ain't got that. Okay.
Jordan Addison's pretty good too.
Yeah, we don't have.
He'd be the Niners number one. He'd be the Niners number one.
Come on, dog. Like, their number two would be our number one receiver. The skill set of what Sam Darnold does well is he stretches the field. He's got a really big arm. He's got a beautiful deep ball. And what happens with their great run game, which is basically our run game that they use, all right, they catch defenses sleeping because Sam can throw a good deep ball. We don't even have the receivers to utilize what Sam Darnold does well.
And they have a good offensive line to give him time to throw the deep ball.
True. Yeah, because they actually run the ball, okay? One thing about it is that Sam Darnold, just because he fit with Minnesota doesn't mean that he'll fit with us. Even though he was on our team for 1 year earlier, I don't like it. I don't want to see Sam Darnold throwing the ball 38 times a game because that's what happened. That's what happened with Kyle. He cannot control himself with quarterbacks who have any semblance of an arm. So no, I do not want Sam Darnold here.
I'm with you. Like, my thing too is like, okay, so Sam Darnold probably can't ask for more than $40 million a year. Purdy can ask for it, but he's not going to get it. So is Darnold in reality going to end up being that much cheaper than Brock Purdy? And are you really willing to pivot because Darnold had a good year in 2024 and Purdy didn't? Like, they both had one good year. The only thing with Purdy that makes me scared is like, is there an issue with his arm that they know about, he knows about, and they won't tell? If that's the case, then they really need to be looking for another starting quarterback, and Darnold might be the answer. But if that's not the case, and it's just like a down season with a lot of factors that were out of his control and some that were in his control, then maybe don't just pivot to someone who's like a lateral move potentially or a downgrade potentially.
Two things that stick out to me about that as well. With him being possibly injured. One, if they know it and they're downplaying him just because they know he's injured, that just shows that's not show anything on Brock. That shows how hard up the organization is just to have a face in there. The fact that you would be pressed to pay a quarterback that you know is hurt because you know you'll get a deal on him. I mean, that's Bush League. If they know he's hurt, then get rid of this dude. You know, I'm serious. Like, I'm no more hurt quarterbacks, man.
Well, it could be one of these like middle grounds where it's like he's hurt, but he doesn't really need surgery. So he wants to go out there and be tough and show the organization that he'll play through injury and not talk about it like Fred Warner, God love him. There could be that, in which case they got to feel really confident that, again, that has to factor into the offer they make. Like, hey, man, we like you. We appreciate that you were toughed it out, but like, we're concerned.
Kind of the reverse Devondre Campbell. You know what I'm saying? You never go full Devondre Campbell.
You don't want to go full Devondre Campbell. All right, let's check out BetUS, our sponsor for today's show. The my favorite online sports book. Number one in my heart and in yours. Niners are a pick 'em with the Dolphins on the road. You gotta love how odds makers and bettors will not quit the 49ers. Doesn't matter what they do on the road. Still a pick 'em. What do you think? I mean, Miami kind of sucks too. So who do you like here?
They don't kind of suck. They suck.
Kind of suck. Yeah, that's true.
I like the Niners.
Give me a reason. I do too, and I'll give you one.
One, I think Miami is they don't necessarily have any type of physicality on offense. And Tua's gonna do it. Tua's gonna Tua. Like, I'm telling you, man, he's gonna put that ball out there. I think our defense, especially against the last game we played, our defense is very opportunistic. I mean, that's something else that we've been doing really good, even though our defense has been struggling. Turnovers, man. We get picks, man. We will get picks. And we're playing against Tua. And we will get those picks versus Tua. So I got us really winning the game necessarily on defense.
Yeah. Thing about them is that they have a decent defense that no one knows about. They gave up 20 to the Texans. They gave up 23 to the Rams. I mean, maybe the Niners have a better defense, but I don't know, man. I think with Tua, I feel like he's actually like scared of Nick Bosa. Like,
what?
Actually scared of him. Yeah, scared of him.
Like physically scared of him?
Like actually physically scared of Nick Bosa. Like when we saw Tua in 2022 against the Niners, he was so bad. He looked, I mean, I'm not going to knock him. I'm not a quarterback or a football player, but there are certain quarterbacks who just seem spooked against the Niners. He's one of them. Dak's 2, Geno's 3. Those 3 guys seem intimidated by the 49ers. Maybe people aren't intimidated by the Niners defense anymore, but I think Tua is. And I don't think that Purdy's intimidated by defenses. I think he's just struggling.
Yeah, I've never seen Purdy be. That's one thing I say about Brock. He's not a bitch. Like Purdy's not scared. I've never seen him scared. Right?
Damn, you just put some words in my mouth.
What did I say?
It's nothing.
My bad.
Called him the B word. That's
I said he's not. I said he's not.
That's a good point. You just invoked it.
I said he's not. Yo, you're nuts.
All right. Those are my bets for BetUS. Make sure you check them out. Use code YouTube150 when you're over there to receive 150% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. That's just generous. Okay. So the Niners could potentially sign Kirk Cousins for like $1 million, or they could go get Sam Darnold for a lot of money, or they could get Sam Darnold's backup on the practice squad. Daniel Jones was a first-round pick, 6th pick in the draft, got the bag, then proceeded to embarrass himself weekly for like a year and a half until he mercifully got waived by the Giants. Now the Vikings are kind of looking at him as maybe their next reclamation project. The Niners were rumored to be interested too, but didn't. And Jones picked the Vikings. What do you think? As someone maybe like for cheap on a 1-year deal. A little bit younger than Kirk Cousins. Got a little bit of pedigree. Funny looking face. I don't know. What do you think?
Funny looking face. Punchable, dare I say. He's got a punchable face. He really does. So Daniel Jones, my biggest thing with Daniel Jones is that I love the athlete Daniel Jones. Very athletic, big arm, big athlete. Everybody laughs at like his viral play of him like tripping on air. But for me, I was like, dog, he left everybody. Like, what quarterbacks do you know that are taking off for 90 plus yards to go score?
Do you ever like run so fast you ran too fast and like get out in front of yourself? I think that's what he ran too fast.
I think he gets excited over the possibility that he's making a successful play, and he gets overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I will say Daniel Jones. One thing about Daniel Jones, where I don't think that he'll necessarily be a fit, is that I think from the neck up, I don't think he's a leader of men. And one thing I'll tell you is that this locker room is a savvy locker room. You got to kind of know how to move as a leader in this locker room. Even if you think about it, there's different layers of guys that all wear the C on their chest that are looked at as leaders, right? You have some guys that are like, it's meritocracy. Hey, it's not about what I say, it's what I do. You got some guys that are there by connection. You have guys that are there that are like spiritually put there. I mean, like as far as like the quarterback is our guy. And I just don't think Daniel Jones knows how to maneuver around a locker room as savvy as ours. I don't think that he would actually get the respect of the locker room. That seemed to be something that was a big problem when he was with the Giants. Necessarily wasn't like a guy that really reached out to his teammates. And then on top of it is, again, Daniel Jones has a really big arm, but he's not accurate. And he can't get the ball out on time. That's a big deal, especially in this offense. So it'd be good to have him just to see, what we could do with another bigger athletic guy. But in my eyes, like you said, if Daniel Jones came here, it would kind of be around the same way I looked at Sam Darnold being here last year.
See, and that's why he's intriguing. Like you just did a great job laying out the negatives. Let me try to lay out the positives, if there are, the pros. If you're looking for the next Sam Darnold, guy who had draft pedigree, was on a bad team, was maybe unfairly blamed for what an awful organization he was drafted into, it would be Daniel Jones. I mean, Darnold was on the Jets, Jones was on the Giants. Those are two like mirror image shit shows. He gets blamed for all their problems. They get rid of him. They don't improve. And then finally you see Darnold in a couple organizations that are competent to good, that don't ask him to do too much. He's at least serviceable, maybe good. We'll see if he can keep it going and what he does in the playoffs. But I feel like Daniel Jones fits that description to a T. And I'm not saying he's going to all of a sudden have 30 touchdown passes next year if he's with the Niners or the Vikings, but he just might if he's in the right situation. Like, we haven't seen him in a good situation. And I think you guys keep that in mind.
I mean, I have a friend who laughs at me all the time because I like Daniel Jones. I really do. I like him as a quarterback, right? Yeah. But I just feel as though that he does have the Sam Darnold arc. Like, he's really never been put on a team that's given him a chance, that he's been with good coaching. He's had a good offensive line to protect him. I remember at one point, Daniel Jones was like one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league. So he's not protected at all. And then on top of it, you get rid of him, but you get rid of Saquon too. Like, you're not helping him out at all. It's like, how do you expect him to
who was his best receiver to throw to when he was in New York?
It was the guy that he just got. It was like Sterling Shepard's, Malik Neighbors this year, but remember with Sterling Shepard, he's with Tampa now. Don't even have anybody really there. There's nothing there.
There's nothing there. So again, this is a guy who's in his 20s. He's big. He's a little mobile, like Darnold, maybe even more mobile than Darnold. He can see. He can throw over the middle. He's cheap. You could get him for a 1-year deal, maybe. And
who's the quarterback over there now?
Where?
With the Giants.
Who
knows? Exactly.
Who knows? They're taking for whatever. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, the thing about, he might be just as cheap as Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins can come here, know the system right away, and play immediately if you need him to. Maybe Daniel Jones can't do that because he need to learn the system, but there might actually be, if you're wondering if Brock Purdy's your future, maybe bring in someone else who's not 37, bring in someone who's 27, and just take a look at him. I mean, Brock's still the starter, but Daniel Jones is learning how Brock leads, kind of like how Sam Darnold did. I mean, the same thing. Sam Darnold got to look at Brock for a year, and I think it helped him. He got to also learn a competent system. I think it helped him. So I'd be interested in Daniel Jones. I think the Niners already are.
I'm waiting for you to get to the obvious name. Our guy.
Well, I was going to go from Jones to Jones. What do you think of? Now let's get into
come on, man.
Let's get into all the guys that the Niners could have taken in round one in 2021 when they were in the market for him.
There's only one more that I want to talk about. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this guy, they almost took him with the third pick. Now he's going to be an unrestricted free agent, Mac Jones.
Lord.
He can process. He's a lot like Brock. He's a lot like Jimmy. He'd fit. What do you think?
Right. Mac Jones would be the first quarterback to actually swing on Kyle on national television. There is no way that Mac Jones would be a fit right here with how we seen that kid act out over the years. He's got a temper, boy. And he's got a rage with him, and he's hard to get along with. And you've almost got to be kind of calmer than him. You got to be the adult in the room when you're dealing with a Mac Jones. And I just don't see that out of Kyle or our quarterback room. On not considering the fact is I don't want anything. I mean, I got spoiled by Brock. I don't want a quarterback that can't run. Mac Jones is slow. Lord, he is not athletic. And with this offensive line that we have, we just basically watch him get beat week in and week out. He does know how to process, but again, we're still losing a lot with the arm talent. There's not much there with Mac Jones. He doesn't have a lot of arm talent.
Than Brock.
Yeah, but his release is 10 times slower. Jesus, I seen paint dry faster. His release is real slow, dude. He is conscientious. He knows how to process, but he also is very cocky. And he gambles and he throws picks. I'm not a big Mac Jones fan at all.
Neither am I. Let me make the case for him, though. Let me lay out because you're gonna go go cons with every player that I mentioned, which is fine because these guys are on the scrap heap. But so let me try to do the pros.
Do you know that though? Do you?
What?
That I'm gonna go cons with every
No. So far. So let me try to balance it.
Yes.
So far. So for Mac, again, this is a guy who's never been on a good team. He was playing for freaking Matt Patricia. I mean, offensive coordinators. Like he was 10-7 as a rookie. He's been on awful teams, and he's been immature for sure. But now he's going to his third team. I mean, Baker Mayfield was kind of immature. I'm not saying he was like Mac, but maybe now he's going to be like 26, 27. Maybe he has humbled himself a little bit. He's coming in on a 1-year deal as a backup again. Maybe you can get a more grown-up Mac Jones, who once again I think could actually if Jimmy Garoppolo could have success for a while on this team. Mac Jones can't? Really? And for $1 million? You don't want to bring him in and let him see, he just might be good for a freaking few months.
Well, the only reason why I'm putting so much criticism on the picks that we're having right now is because there's a lot better there, right? So I don't want to jump ahead of us, but why would you go Mac Jones when you can go with who's your next player?
You tell me who it is. I don't know who
Justin Fields.
Okay,
Justin Fields. Justin Fields. All right. If you had to go Mac Jones, if Justin Fields is just as at play as Mac Jones would be, and you get an athlete that we haven't seen since Cap at quarterback, all right. Justin Fields has definitely learned how to hone in his ball skills a little bit more. He's not the most athletic quarterback, but he could definitely give us a 50-50 ball. All right. He could get the ball downfield. He's a gamer. Justin Fields will not quit on us. One thing that I like about him as well is that he also opens up the run game. So now when we have Isaac Guerendo or Jordan Mason in the backfield or Christian McCaffrey, we get a real RPO with a real running quarterback that knows how to protect himself in the open field instead of trying to fit a square peg in a round hole with Trey Lance with QB power and Brock Purdy, who we already know it's a crapshoot once he gets outside of the pocket. So having Justin Fields, in my opinion, you get a bigger arm, all right? You get a more athletic guy. One thing about Justin Fields is I feel like he's gotten the years that he's been in the league, he's gotten all of like that leadership stuff out of the way. He's a likable guy. I think that he's mature enough to fit in with our locker room and guys would follow him. Justin Fields, man. I wouldn't be mad at that pick, bro.
I like it too. I mean, like, you kind of dismiss it because it's like, oh, well, Kyle wouldn't want him or he wouldn't fit Kyle's scheme. Like, who cares? Your job as a coach is to get the best players. And I feel like that's the kind of player that like Andy Reid wouldn't shy away from. Like, who's to say he won't end up as Mahomes backup next year or something like that? I mean, he worked with Michael Vick and Donovan McNabb. Like, Fields is interesting because he didn't win in Chicago. Okay, no one wins in Chicago.
Nobody does. Right.
No one wins in Chicago. Goes to Pittsburgh. Finally, in his first year with a competent organization, he's 4-2. Quarterback rating 93. Like, not the greatest quarterback in the league, but taking strides. He's 25 years old. And then you look at the the Packers. Matt LaFleur comes from the same coaching tree, Mike Shanahan. They got Jordan Love, who's a classic pocket quarterback with a little mobility, and his backup is Malik Willis, who is a dual threat. And when he comes in and plays, when Jordan Love is hurt, they have a totally different offense. It's completely run-centric. It's the same philosophy of run first, but they run a whole lot more. They run differently, and it works. So why couldn't – I mean, Kyle Shanahan never had the inclination to build that for Trey Lance, but maybe that's because Trey Lance wasn't the runner that Justin Fields.
No, yeah, Trey Lance is not as athletic as Justin Fields.
How many quarterbacks are as dynamic running the ball as Justin Fields? Like,
very few.
Lamar,
very few. And I'll tell you this too. What you said makes so much sense. With Justin Fields, he's not just a backup quarterback. He's a part of the offense. Because now you could put wrinkles into the offense. You could do things with Justin Fields on the field with Brock Purdy. You could bring in Justin Fields for certain packages with guys. I mean, it could really be a whole nother dynamic of the offense. It's a possibility.
You think Kyle has it in him?
No. Not.
Who do you think you'd be more interested in on the open market? I mean, they both will be there. Mac Jones, Justin Fields.
Oh, just between the two?
Yeah.
Mac Jones. But
I agree.
You know, we're gonna get somebody like Taylor Heineke or like, you know, Drew Lock. It's like somebody's gonna, you know, we'll find somebody that's really kind of Kyle sees the worth in them, but they're not an open threat to Brock. Justin Fields is way too much of a name. It's way too much of name recognition, and there's too much. That's a live dog. If Justin Fields comes in here, people are going to expect a real competition. I don't think he would come in here.
That's what they did this year. They brought in Josh Dobbs, who's a 30-year-old career backup. They kept Brendan Allen, who's a 30-year-old career backup.
Non-threatening.
We believe in Brock. And he had his worst season yet. So they could do that again. Or they could say, you know what, Brock, you did better with some competition, man. We're going to bring in someone who actually has potential to be a starting quarterback too. Because Trey Lance was there. He had potential. Sam Darnold had potential. Like, you had to rise up and show that you had that franchise quarterback potential too. Now, we want someone like Justin Fields or Mac Jones, someone who's in their 20s, someone like Daniel Jones, someone who just might have some upside that you may not have. We don't know.
But it's also the implication, though, Grant. Like, they're not going to bring anybody that's truly going to, like, whoever comes in, they're going to have an uphill battle, too. If they bring in somebody that can see Brock eye to eye or is, like, as good as a starter as Brock is, then that doesn't look like you really want your franchise quarterback to have a fair go of it. It looks like you're trying to get him out of there. You know, they're going to bring somebody in who's already going to be a notch lower than what Brock does. They have to.
Sure. But if they bring in, 30-something-year-old Marcus Mariota or
that's Taylor, what I'm saying.
Like a career backup that has no prospects to become a starter for even as a bridge, you did that this year. You did that this year. I'd like to see a little bit bigger commitment to the quarterback position. It'd be one thing if Brock was coming off another Pro Bowl season, but he's not. Let me bring up another Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, Russell Wilson. He'll be a free agent. He's having a good season. He's won a Super Bowl. You want to get rid of Brock Purdy or bring in another option? Some people will say, well, what's Sam Darnold done in the playoffs? How do you really know these guys are going to be good for you in the playoffs where Brock's 4-2? Russell Wilson's played a lot of playoff games.
Yeah, I think Russ would come in and immediately it'd be a shot in the arm for the locker room. He's well known. Everybody will try to kind of run back all of his greatest hits that we've seen him play against us week in and week out over the years.
He's had success in the division.
He's also had success in the division, but I also don't think that he's run our offense. I don't think that Russ necessarily can drive the ball down the field with regularity, the way we expect him to see on a regular basis.
He's got a bigger arm than Brock.
I mean, everybody has a bigger arm than Brock. Come on, dude. There are not many. You know what I mean? I mean, not many.
Sexy deep ball. I like his deep ball. Russ.
Who? Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I like Russ's deep ball, but again, you know, with Russ is he's way too much of a like his dynamic character. He's way too big of a cast, way too big of a shadow to come in here and them truly believe that Russ would be a backup if he lost to Brock Purdy. That's like his career's done. If Russell Wilson comes in here, loses to Brock Purdy, and he's Brock Purdy's backup, it's a wrap.
Well, if
he wouldn't
Pittsburgh
do
doesn't
that.
Bring him back, then where's he going to start? No one. He's not starting anywhere if he doesn't stay in Pittsburgh. He's done. So
I think he'll.
In the NFL, got a chance to come over here to the Niners and see if Brock Purdy gets hurt. You do a little bit better than him. I mean, you got similar players.
I don't think Kyle does it. Also, we got to realize that
draft Russell. You know who wanted to draft Russell? His dad, Mike.
Mike. Yeah.
Mike wanted him. He wanted him instead of RG3.
Instead of RG3. Yeah.
Yeah. Kyle wanted Kirk. Mike wanted Russell.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe he doesn't fit the scheme. I mean, he's not great at throwing over the middle. But God, on play action bootlegs, that would be quite a nice.
It'd be awesome.
So clutch, man. I mean, even now, if he's down 7 points in the fourth quarter, I still think he's going to find a way to win. Whereas with Brock, I don't feel that way.
Well, now you don't feel that way. Have you ever felt that way?
No, he's never been that like fourth quarter guy to me. Like he'd be great in the first three, but if the game's tight in the fourth quarter, that's when he gets tight, in my opinion. I think he's always
how much of this do you put on Brock, and how much of this do you put on the fact that Brock really isn't running an offense? He's running the scheme. He doesn't really have control over the offense.
That's true, but like a franchise quarterback, you'd like to like transcend it. And I think his best plays in fourth quarters and tight games are usually scrambles, like in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, but that's what we gave him credit for when everybody was here, transcending the scheme, right? Doing more than what we had seen.
He can't do that as a steady diet. Like we've seen it. He'll get hurt if he keeps scrambling the way he's been scrambling this year. He'd already got hurt. He's not that guy.
Respect.
I got one more name for you before we get out of here and take the final super chats.
Let's do it.
He was the number one pick. He was the number one pick. He's got a hell of an arm. He can move. I mean, he's getting some valuable experiences here. Jameis Winston, man, what do you think?
Dog, I can't take Jameis seriously, bro. I cannot take him seriously.
Is he not the backup quarterback that this locker room needs?
Oh my God, he is the medicine that we need right now. If you want to just feel good about yourself, Jameis would come in here and immediately give us a shot in the arm. No. I mean, I just no. Jameis, I don't know what to say about Jameis. Number one, he is a football guy. You can't take that away from him. It's in his blood. He's got an
incredible arm.
He's got a great arm. He's got a good arm. But he throws so many picks.
He's the worst decision maker I think I've ever seen.
He makes horrible decisions, man. Horrible. I mean,
then the camera pans to his face, and it's just like, again, look, it's like me, me again. Like, yeah, Jameis, sorry.
Lord, please help me from throwing these picks. Hey, Jameis,
someone's gonna sign him.
Somebody, oh hell yeah, somebody's gonna resign him. I wouldn't sign him, bro. I don't see any worth there. I guess this is a good fun topic at the end, but I don't take it seriously at all, man. There's no way Jameis would come here, play.
What if Nick Bosa personally says, I want Jameis on this team? Jameis is the guy. Nick.
David Lombardi would melt on camera. Can you imagine watching David?
What about Jameis?
No. I
don't understand. I don't get it.
I don't know. Okay. I have no idea.
Maybe you'll explain it to me another time. I don't know.
There's no way, dude. Could you imagine if Jameis Winston came here and beat out Brock Purdy? Like, people would melt. Like, there's no way that he would shut down his YouTube channel for sure. All right. Can you imagine David Lombardi having to put stats on why Jameis Winston is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL?
Worth it. It's worth it alone for that.
It would be worth it. It'd be worth
But although
it.
another quarterback who I think might have a tough time with if he came here and had success, Justin Fields.
Justin
And I don't know why.
Fields.
I don't know what they have in common.
Either.
I don't know why.
We have no idea. You know what else is crazy? As much as David Lombardi tweets, I can't, and you know he's such a staunch defender of all 49ers players and quarterbacks. I can't find any of his 2021 tweets when we drafted Trey Lance. I can't find
so positive about him.
I can't find any of those tweets.
It's almost like he took the time to go back and delete them all.
It's
almost like that happened. Yeah,
it's almost like that happened because David never misses an opportunity to miss something as important as a draft, as an NFL draft.
That's strange.
And he just didn't have anything to say about Trey Lance during the draft. It's odd.
I got a question for you because enough of him. Now that we've gone through like eight options.
Mm-hmm.
And we agree that the number one option is don't extend it. But we've gone through like 8 options of how to hedge at this quarterback position. Which one's your favorite?
Justin Fields. I would say Justin Fields or, to be honest, Kirk Cousins seems viable. Kirk Cousins
seems like Kyle's favorite option.
It does. It seems like it's going to happen, to be honest.
I think that's going to happen. But it's not my favorite option either.
Time. Yeah.
It's his team. It's finally right in front of his freaking face. I don't think he can resist. And I'm not that into it either.
Me neither.
He might be washed. I'd be more interested in like taking a chance on Daniel Jones. One guy we didn't mention. Maybe we don't need to. Real quick. Hold on. Let me get the banner up so it's official. Did I even write the guy in? I don't think I wrote the guy in. Oh, I did.
Oh.
This is a guy that the Niners almost certainly would have drafted if he were available with the 3rd pick. If
for sure
the Jets had taken Trey Lance or Justin Fields, the Niners would have ran to the podium for Zach Wilson again.
Mm-hmm.
He's a joke. But so was Sam Darnold, man. He played for the Jets. He played for Mike LaFleur and Nathaniel Hackett. Sean Payton took him under his wing this year. Sean Payton, he didn't make him the starter. Bo Nix is doing a really good job, but they're slowly sort of rehabilitating his image and teaching him what a good organization and a good scheme looks like. And he's still hella young. What do you think about Zach Wilson?
I think the same way about Zach Wilson that I do Mac Jones. I think we dodged that bullet. It's a personality clash. One thing I will say about Kyle is for all of the criticism that we levy against him, Kyle is a football guy. He cares about the game. He's going to study. He's going to prepare to make sure that he has a game plan together. And one thing that he does not play with is unprepared quarterbacks. He doesn't play that game. And that's part of...
But hold on. What if he calls up Sean Payton and says, okay, Robert Saleh gave us terrible reports on Zach Wilson. What was your experience with Zach Wilson? You know what? He grew up a lot this year. He accepted his role as the number 2 quarterback. He was very helpful for Bo Nix. He's a really smart kid. I had no issues with him.
You want to take personality out of it? Then I think it'd be a fit.
He's young.
I'm just saying, if we take personality out of it, I think he's a fit. I think he is a fit. I think that's somebody where just as athletic as Brock, way better arm.
Similar playing style to Brock.
Similar playing style. They like to kind of gun it, get outside of the pocket is where you see most of them get most of their special stuff. It happens when they're outside of the pocket. One thing I will say about Zach is that Zach has a talented deep ball. He can get the ball down the field with ease, flick of the wrist, kind of with ease. Zach Wilson, man, I like this. I'm going to be real. I like Zach Wilson better than the Justin Fields comp. I like Zach Wilson.
I'm just saying he's going to be there.
Hold on, minus the personality stuff.
Well, again, they got to vet him and make sure he's like outgrown that. He was wild at BYU.
Keep his mother in the press box.
Official BNM Music 88 says, what if Brock is just the greatest bridge backup quarterback of all time and people are confusing him with a franchise quarterback because of the team's success? Even Philly eventually knew Foles wasn't a long-term answer. The fact that these questions exist to me mean you can't extend them.
You can't extend them. Yeah.
You don't know. We don't know. They don't know. He doesn't know. Wook Sniper says, someone in the circle said Jimmy G's numbers are better than Brock's with the same amount of games played. Thoughts? Again, these are things that bring you pause.
Yeah, it's a wash when you think about it.
Lorenzo Gonzalez says, Cousins regular season stat stuff or no, please. I don't think anyone likes Cousins. I think he's playing his way out of the league. Who wants Cousins on their team at this point, 2025?
And it's, you know what, also, another reason why Kirk is going to be quickly out of the league is because of his contracts. He's
so
underplayed. He's made so much money. He's underplayed a lot of his contracts.
We'll see if he's willing to play for free this year. Well, the Falcons will be paying him next year. Corey Coleman says, Darnold be singing Mike Jones. Now I'm hot. They all on me. Good song. B. White says, what if Kyle built around Kaepernick instead of cutting him, giving him the weapons we have today? Do you think we would have won a ring by now? No.
Nah, personality.
I think, honestly, like Kaepernick, Jimmy, Brock, similar career trajectories. Burst on the scene, go to the Super Bowl,
flame
out. Happened to Cap, happened to Jimmy. Is it happening to Brock? We don't know. 9P says Kirk is better than Brock. Come on, coach. I don't care about one down year after injury. He makes throws Brock couldn't dream of. Bigger arm, better versus man coverage.
Man, okay.
Can't move.
Is that Brock in a military school outfit?
Could be. It's like Sean Barnes says it doesn't matter who's quarterback. The same things will happen if we don't invest in the O-line. Preach. Adam K says, what's the chance we'll have a similar season next year? I'd estimate 70%, especially if we run it back. Oh, they're going to run it back. With Zach Wilson, though. So maybe Zach Wilson's the difference. You never know. It's
crazy.
Thomas Scholl, just me, or can Dylan Gabriel do what Purdy does? Do I look like I know who Dylan Gabriel is? I'll have to look. I'll get back to you. It's the second super chat I've gotten about Dylan Gabriel, so I feel like it's on me at this point. Frisco Shill says, where is Kyle on the Dunning-Kruger effect? If Kyle is not improving, then isn't Kyle the issue and not the quarterback? I don't know what the Dunning-Kruger effect is, but
I can tell you what it is. The Dunning-Kruger effect is basically it's a phenomenon where someone comes into an expertise where they learn so much so fast that they think that they're an expert, but they haven't taken enough time to actually make themselves an expert. So they're perpetually inside of this purgatory of having way too much ego to admit that they don't know what they need to go find out, and then being a fraud in front of those who truly do know what they don't know.
Story of my life right there. Frisco Shills, thank you. Boogeyman MMA says, what I think is going to happen is Brock will get a 4-year deal. He will play out his rookie deal before his contract kicks in, and the Niners will have an out after 2 years. Possible. Seems sensible. Coach,
great.
Just an impeccable show.
We always pull it together, man.
We do. Yeah, somehow, some way. Keep coming up with funky ass shit like
every single day. May I kick a little something for the G's, and
yes, you may, Snoop. Steven Draper says, what about Joe Milton on the Pats? What about him?
The big arm guy, the big arm kid from Tennessee? No.
Yeah.
No. We don't even have the offensive line to let him get that throw off.
I mean, the passes are 4-yard slants. You don't need to throw them that
right.
Coach, good stuff. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll be back tonight with Jesse on Niners After Dark.